Hello, Dane. How are you doing?
I want the people to know that Samuel stretches before every podcast.
You have to be ready to go if you want to record well.
He was doing like a breaststroke. He stood up. He was like,
Is row a part of stretching?
it's actually, if you are bilingual like I am,
Mm-hmm.
you can speak dog.
See? Welcome back to the second episode of the Until Next Week podcast.
Hey, party people.
Dane, how are you feeling?
I woke up, showered. You said you'd be here at 10 sharp, and here we are, 12:05.
To be honest, I did say I would be here a few minutes before 10.
You did say that. Yeah. To be honest, you said you'd be here before 10. So I got up somewhat early, showered, all that jazz, and then drank my V8 juice, and now I got some Good Decision juice open. By that I mean Mountain Dew.
And right now it is 12:05, so it only took 2 hours from the original start time to start recording. So we are thriving at this whole podcast thing.
Well, hey, I didn't hate it because it allowed me to look up one of our topics today that we're going to be discussing later that surprisingly needed.
What are you saying right now?
I was saying surprisingly needed a lot of research.
Okay, that was a crazy word flow you had going there. It sounded like you're one of those mumble rappers, but
we're getting to that. Those mumble rappers.
Actually, we are getting to that later, which is quite interesting because that was unintentional on my part, but because we are such great podcasters, stuff just comes about just naturally.
Name 75 people that have had a second podcast.
I can't name one.
Exactly.
I could name one, but you put me on the spot because I couldn't name 75.
Well, I can name one. Dane and Samuel.
That's not our podcast name.
Oh, it's not.
Because we are the Until Next Week podcast. Again, follow us on our Instagram at Until Next Week podcast. We do not have a Patreon yet, but it could happen because we are thriving because of you. Thank you to all our loyal fans. You don't know how much your support means to us, and I'm going to keep talking.
Whatever, forget the fans. But speaking of that, you know what the people are wondering, the fans?
What are they wondering, Dane?
You know what? They're wanting to know how we originally came to the conclusion of we should name it Until Next Week.
You know, we should have talked about this in our first episode, the pilot episode, which was not called the pilot. I don't remember what we called it. We're Back. That's what we called the episode.
That's
yes.
Right.
So we're back again, but we never said why we named the podcast the Until Next Week podcast. And let me tell you, Dane.
Take it away.
You want me to take it away right now?
You take it away and tell the people why we named it Until Next Week.
That's good. Well, we were brainstorming names for the podcast, and originally Dane was like, hey, we'll just call it the K-Life podcast. And I'm like, no, probably should not do that. For
trademark pending.
And also, we just don't want to box ourselves in, with this one. I guess we have boxed ourselves in with one podcast name, but this allows us some more variety.
Oh yeah,
and what we talk about, and there's just so much to us.
I felt boxed.
Mm-hmm. How did that make you feel?
Boxy, and one of my favorite things is thinking outside the bun. So,
wait, what did you say?
Brought to you by Taco Bell.
Okay, I was like, I thought you were going to say box, and then you said the bun. I'm like, what? Yeah. What am I hearing here?
Taco Bell.
That is quality.
Please support us,
Taco
Taco
Bell. But for why we named it the Until Next Week podcast, we were brainstorming, and that's difficult for both of us. But then I think it was kind of Dane's idea that we would
philosophy of just being like, oh, we're gonna bring up controversial topics and then be like, you know what, we're gonna get to it next week.
Yeah, and
we may or may not address it next week.
I thought that was a great idea on Dane's part because controversial topics can get us canceled, and Dane knows that firsthand. But
so true. If
we wait until next week and then just keep waiting until the next week and so on and so forth, we won't get canceled.
And you'll have to keep listening.
It's a great bait and switch move. So even if you made it this far in the podcast, you've listened to us for a grand total of about 45 minutes over the past 2 weeks, and you're hooked. Like, we are in Springfield, Missouri, the home of Bass Pro.
Love that.
So we know a lot about fishing and getting people hooked on podcasts.
You're cut off from ever doing a pun again.
The people wanted to know about the puns. And I don't even know really what else to say, but that's why we're called the Until Next Week podcast.
Well, so we've done one so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did the analytics look like on that?
Oh, you want to go straight into the analytics? Yeah.
I'm great at transitioning.
So, yeah, we talked about this last week as well. And, Dane, I've kind of taken the control on some of these, like posting the podcasts and such. Our first episode was supposed to come out last Monday. And because I'm so great at what I do, I accidentally posted it Sunday night, which is awesome. But on the bright side, I was able to... Mr. Bright. Oh, again, back to the singing of the songs, which has come back to a topic we'll talk about later. This app shows the analytics of how many people have played our episodes, our audience size, our demographics, etc. And, Dane, I'm going to ask you some questions, and we're going to see how close or how far you are.
I want to know how many grandparents listen to this.
We kind of have that.
No way.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, somewhat, but the answers may surprise you. So, Dane, just starting off, how big do you think our audience size is?
I think we had 17 people listen to it.
Go higher.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Guess again.
I don't know if it's like significantly higher or not. But 25.
Higher.
30.
Higher.
No way.
Just keep going.
33.
That's our yes. Also, that was probably really loud in your headphones, but yes, our audience size was 33, but our plays per episode is slightly higher.
Really?
Which is most likely because of me or maybe Dane. I don't really know.
Multiple listens.
How many plays per episode do you think we have up to this point?
42.
No. It is 36.
I was thinking 36.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, you don't expect it to be drastically higher plays per episode right now.
Yeah, maybe.
So with the audience size of 33, 36 plays, I think we're at an okay start.
That's pretty good.
We hope to double these numbers in the next week, and we'll talk about this later on to see if we can reach that goal
of 7 billion people.
Yes, it's close. If you just keep listening, I think we can reach that number probably by the end of the month.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, we just got to keep growing.
Internet access is a challenge to some people in the world. However,
yeah, including myself,
we're here to burst through those ceilings.
That was profound there, Dane. But so besides the plays per episode and our audience size, for our geographic locations, this actually may surprise you. What countries do you think our listeners are from?
Australia.
No.
Dang it. Definitely not the United States.
Actually, 100% of our listeners are from the United States.
Okay, so we're not international yet.
But, there's a chance the people listening to it in the United States, they could be from somewhere else, so we could be international.
Well, you texted me and told me there was somebody from a different state, right?
Oh, well, that's not international. That's just different states.
Bonjour.
No. Yes, I know we do at least have one listener. I believe it was Indiana.
Yeah, you said Indiana.
Yeah, so we're at least in more states than just Missouri.
We're global. Actually, we have one from Nebraska too. Actually, 2 from Nebraska.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's 3 states.
They texted me.
We only have 47 more.
You know what? We're working on it.
Okay.
And then if we get to all 50 states, we'll do a special recording in a different state. We'll come to you and do it live.
This is news to me, but I'm down for it. Let's do it.
So you fans in Hawaii, get ready because we're coming.
This we'll be on the beach. But for some other just quick stats, 58% of our listeners are from Spotify, 28% Apple Podcasts, 8% web browsers, 3% Anchor, and 3% other.
Hey, Anchor's cool.
I don't know what you're listening to if you're not on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or web browsers, or Anchor, but for you, 3%, which I believe is probably one person based on our stats. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Sam, you want breaking news to the podcast right now?
I would love some breaking news.
I just got Venmo'd $400.
Ooh.
Because...
What was the emoji?
Just a trophy emoji.
Oh, what did you do?
I won my... fantasy football league. I won 2 of them, so I'll be getting more money.
Did you win because the other team had the Buffalo Bills players?
No, that's controversial.
That would be an issue.
In fact, I had a Bengals player who didn't end up playing, but I still won the championship.
I'm really proud of you, Dane. With that money, you'll be able to sponsor the pod and future episodes.
Or do that.
Yeah.
No.
Well, did you have anything else you were going to talk about there?
No, but because I wanted to be a surprise. But I do think I know what I'm going to do with the money.
What are you going to do with that money?
Well, I can't tell you until after it happens
Why not?
because you can't see it.
Okay. Can you tell me one thing that you will not do with the money,
Well,
but
yes.
it could be an interesting way to use the money?
I will not use it to buy the complete box set of The Office.
Are you sure?
I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to guess, I probably wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Pretty sure I know what I'm going to do, though.
Well, we'll just have to wait until next week to
Yeah.
find out more.
It may be happening next week.
I'm excited
It's
because
something that's permanent, too. So you can't, you can undo it.
you're going to get one of your limbs removed.
No! Dang it.
Yeah. So for the rest of our analytics, this is actually Spotify only. But for our age ranges, what age range do you think is currently our biggest?
22.
Let me ask you first.
Oh.
0 to 17,
Oh.
18 to 22, 23 to 27, 28 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 59, or 60 plus.
I want to know how Spotify knows how old everybody is.
When you sign up, I believe you have to put in your birthday.
I don't remember. I did this years ago, 4 years ago. But I'm going to pick, what was it, 23 to 27?
That is one of the options.
I'll pick that one.
You are partially correct.
So there's a tie.
Yes.
Okay.
Between 18 to 22 and 23 to 27.
So
On
people our
Spotify,
age.
it's 43% for both age ranges. So we are truly reaching.
That's not 100%.
So 43% on those, but then we have 10% of our listeners on Spotify that are 28 to 34, and we have 5% at 60 plus, which basically means one person listened on Spotify who was 60 plus.
Whoever it is, reach out to us, and we'll give you a shout out on the podcast next week.
One other quick question. Do you believe we have a bigger male or female audience?
Okay. Completely unbiased. I think we have a bigger male audience because I think they'll think we're funnier.
You're correct, Dane.
Yeah.
We've also reached out to our male counterparts a little more aggressively.
True.
And at this point, they don't know. I guess the female listeners don't know how much of a ladies' man Dane is. But once they find out, they will be coming in the masses. And our listeners. I mean, I don't know how we'll be able to I don't know how we'll be able to record at
That's
this
true.
location because they'll just be here trying to get your autograph
Well, I don't know about that. And to be fair, it is my house.
and a little kiss on the cheek.
Whoa. Never have I ever. I would never do that.
But yes, 62% of our listeners are male and
Nice.
38% are female. You add that together, that is 100%.
Well, what about animals?
I believe that's we have a not specified category, which is 0%. So I'm assuming that would be the animals.
Freaking animals. Can you bleep that out for me?
I will do my best. I've first time I ever. What was that noise? I don't know if you could even hear that. But the first time I ever edited a podcast was last week for this one, and
Nice.
I don't think it was too bad. We
liked it.
honestly, I believe, I think it was pretty good overall.
Yeah.
Going quickly, how do you think our first podcast went last week, Dane?
I would give it 7.3 out of 10
Okay. Do you want to further explain why you gave it a 7.3?
because we didn't have the sponsors lined up.
Mm-hmm.
No one's given us money yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't established ourselves in order to have guests. And we also can't hear ourselves while we're recording.
That's true. We were going to use headphones today so we could hear our output levels in the hopes that this would all just sound great for our entire audience. But I don't know how to do that yet. So if you know how to work a Focusrite audio device and you have had any experience with editing, but you don't even need editing skills. You just have to help us learn. I don't know if you can hear that. Someone's squeaking their straws in the background. This is great. Again,
Straws.
wasn't it a straw?
It was a straw, but you don't have two straws usually.
I've used 2 straws in the past.
You're just an animal.
Yes, I am. I'm part of that 0%. But yeah, if you know how to use headphones with a Focusrite, please let us know so we don't waste 45 minutes trying to figure that out.
It wasn't wasted. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. But other breaking news, we have hired a social media manager
Dun, dun, dun.
for free.
Well, they get all the perks, though.
Mm-hmm. What kind of perks did they get, Dane?
Well, number one, they get to hear it live and in action and in flowing color.
Mm-hmm.
And you people listening cannot until we get the video side of this set up,
That is true.
which we're working on that. I have pretty sick camera phone.
I have not done anything with it, but I did think about it briefly yesterday.
Ooh.
And I don't think it would be too difficult to set up.
So I'm saying you just record and then put it on YouTube.
Yeah, but I don't know if we want to go YouTube immediately, but mainly because I'm very busy over the next few months.
Whatever, dude. You're always just making up things of what you're doing. Like you said you helped your grandma today. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't. I noticed last week I kept on saying, hey, I don't want to talk about that. But a podcast, you're supposed to talk about stuff, so I'm going to be a little bit better.
Not true.
You're not supposed to talk about stuff on a podcast. Okay, that could be a different way to do things.
Exactly.
But I did get woken up a little before 5 a.m. today because
Yeah.
I had to help my grandparents with a quick task.
You know it's Saturday.
I do know it's Saturday.
Well, what are your grandparents over here fluffing your gills for?
You know, if they need help, then I will come a running because I'm that kind of guy.
You never ran, though. You swam.
I also just rode in a car to help. But yeah, it was an early morning, and that's why I showed up 45 minutes later than I told Dane this
Well, guess
morning.
what?
What?
This may or may not be the last podcast that we record without a jingle.
Oh, ho, ho.
'Cause
This is somewhat news to me.
Well, we have also hired a person to produce our theme music.
And how much will we be paying that person, Dane?
We'll be paying them in a handshake and a smile.
That is more than I thought. But if we ever need to, Dane did get $400, so
That was from one of my leagues. I won another league, and I have no idea how much.
Dane is made of money.
I'm not made of money. I'm just a winner.
Mm-hmm. I did notice you are sitting higher in your seat today, and I believe that's because, yes, you are sitting on a wad of cash. It is 4 $100 bills, which is why he's raised up.
Dang it. Well, all of that was the intro to the podcast.
We are getting better at this, people. It has been almost 18 minutes.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought.
And we just did the introduction.
That was the intro.
If you are still here right now, please DM Dane the word flamingos.
No, you have to DM me or text me the word flamingos. And if you're still here, you'll get a shout out on the podcast next time we record.
And same, you could also text me any sort of message to either of us or the podcast account Until Next Week Podcast. If you send the word flamingos, we will shout you out.
And bonus points if you actually send the flamingo.
Yeah,
emoji.
if you send the flingo emoji, you will get bonus points.
Fandango.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing.
We are also currently keeping tabs on if and when we do eventually have.
Flamingos.
Sorry for that.
Oh.
Yeah, when we have flamingos on the pod, we have been keeping track of those names in a mental capsule of our brains. And eventually, once we get this pod in place properly and really just, I don't even know what we got to do, but once we just really have it set in stone, we will potentially, maybe, have guests on the pod. You heard it here first.
Hey, person from Omaha asked me if they could be on the podcast.
What did you tell them?
I said, absolutely not, because this person is my number one hater.
That is, I mean, that could be, you're going to show up one day to your own house when we record this, and that one individual will be here waiting for you in my place.
Well, they live rent-free in my mind because I've known them for a long time.
How long?
24 years.
Wow.
Huge hater.
We don't talk about haters much on the podcast, but this is a huge hater, sounds like.
Yeah. If you're listening, hater, then you know who you are, and you need to text me the flamingo, and I'll mention who you are on the next podcast.
Do you want to give a hint of who it may be?
I'll give you a hint. They're diabolical.
Oh, I think all you listeners know who this might be.
The hater just texted me.
What did that hater text?
Nothing relevant.
That is quality information for a podcast.
They're going to a surprise party and told me not to tell this person.
We should drop the podcast right now. Send it to the person. If they listen 20 minutes in, then they will know a surprise is coming.
That'd be really funny. I don't know how we could do that, though.
I mean, I could just stop recording right now. I did not
JK,
stop
we're
recording.
here. Okay. But all of you who listened to the last podcast,
All 33 of you.
all 33 of you.
Unless you listen as a group. So actually,
Ooh.
our listeners could be in the millions right now.
That's true.
They played it at They played it at the World Cup, which was before we started this.
They played at MetLife Stadium last week.
There's a time difference, time zone, so that's how they were able to do that.
True.
Yeah.
But speaking of people who may have listened in groups, this first person reached out to me and said that she agrees on our take about male engagement rings.
Oh, let's
Yeah.
go.
Her name is Grayson Rogers.
Way to go, Grayson. I'm so happy that you're a loyal listener. And honestly, you are one of the 8%
Yeah.
of females
Of the Familians.
listening to our podcast, which
Yeah.
it might just be on Spotify. But
But
we are proud to have you as a
Yeah.
loyal listener.
and her man friend, Trent, probably was listening as well. Trent May.
They could have listened together, so our listeners could be 34.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I bet they did listen together. They probably drive places together. I don't know what couples do.
We probably don't need
You're
to
a
go too
couple.
far into their relationship.
Samuel's in a couple, and my question to him is, do you guys ride around together?
The answer is occasionally yes.
Nice.
Yes.
But then the next person who reached out to me, who
Mhm.
listened to the podcast, is one of my brother-in-laws who, kind of my brother-in-law.
Mhm.
And
How is it kind of?
well, so it's my stepsister's husband.
Okay.
And so my brother-in-law, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you really have a podcast?" I said, "But of course."
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, "Well, how do I access this?" And then I said, "Do you have an iPhone?" And then once I realized that our messages were blue, I was like, "Oh, wait. Yeah, he totally has an iPhone." Sent it to him. He said, "Sweet." He's a local farmer. By local, I mean 2 hours north of here.
I bet you that he was one of the other listeners that was not Spotify,
Yeah,
Apple
I
Podcasts.
sent it to him on Apple.
Oh.
Yeah, because I was like, no way he has Spotify. He doesn't know what that means.
Mhm.
And I was like, but everybody has it. If they have an iPhone, they have Apple Podcasts. So I sent it to him.
That's valid.
Yeah.
Man, I'm Dane's sort of brother-in-law. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Make sure to send Dane the word flamingos
Yeah.
so you can be mentioned again
Eric
on the
Berry.
podcast.
Eric Berry, not the chief safety, but his name is Eric Berry.
I really wish the chief safety was your sort of brother-in-law.
That'd be
sort of other
crazy.
brother-in-law. So then both of them are your sort of brother-in-laws, but
Yeah.
one can get us free Chiefs tickets.
Well, I do know an NBA player.
Ooh.
His name's OG Anunoby. If you're
OJ
listening-
Simpson?
No, OG Anunoby. If you're hearing this OG, that means this has reached Toronto.
Please, if you get the chance, show your teammates and or LeBron this podcast
and
as well.
Drake.
Those are our next sponsors we would like to have on the
Drake,
podcast.
LeBron James, and all of Toronto.
You heard it here first. Our first individual we will record on the podcast is all of Toronto and LeBron James.
and Drake. All at the
Drake
same
is
time.
part of all of Toronto.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because he is from Canada, so I'm assuming he's also basically from Toronto.
Probably.
That's how it works.
But then my coworkers also listened.
You know, Dane, I'm really happy that all these individuals are reaching out to you because I have not had the same luck. And
Guys,
I try
text Samuel. I know you're listening.
please, I just need something to keep me going. But I know Dane is currently that individual.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm just flamboyant. But
You should see what he's wearing.
oh yeah, I'm wearing a Seattle Supersonics jersey.
Mhm. Kevin Durant.
Shout out to KD. KD, if you're listening,
He's a loyal
text the
listener.
Flamingo. But also, my coworkers were like, I sent it to one, and he listened, and he goes, "Oh, this is hilarious! Like, I'm gonna keep listening and stuff like that." I asked my other coworkers, some of which are haters,
Mhm.
and they said, "Well, Dane, why would I listen to this if I get to listen to you banter and rant every day about other things?" And well, the one dude was like, "You know what? Like, you're just ridiculous." And I was like, he didn't say that. He was like, he goes, "It's kind of egotistical of
Mhm.
you." And I said, first off, great philosophers are rarely understood in their time.
I agree.
Retweet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said that to him, and he's like, "Oh, are you calling yourself a philosopher?" And I'm like, first off, it goes me, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Locke, and Thomas Jefferson after that.
And I'm hot takes right there because I thought there'd be some other people in that top 200 list you just made,
Oh, well,
which we'll get to
yeah, we're
later
gonna
on the
get to.
pod. Oh,
But yes, so that last time, if you are listening to this and you hear the word flamingos, text me flamingos. You'll get a shout out until the first 200 people get a shout out.
The 201st person to text the word flamingos to one of us will get $400 from Dane.
That's just not true. I'll give you a pair of my socks.
If you do it in the next week and you are the 200th person.
Yeah. If you do it before the next podcast, which we may or may not record the next one right after this.
We want to give the illusion that is not the case.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But so that rolls us into our main topic of the day, correct?
That is correct, Dane. What is our main topic of the day?
So I was chatting with my roommates the other night, and it was Tuesday or Wednesday night, and one of them said, hey, Rolling Stones came out with their top 200 singers of all time. And I said, but of course, please elaborate on this list. And so he started naming some of the people on the list, and it soon erupted into a wildfire of my roommates and I just arguing, no, this person sucks, this person's great. Are you kidding me, this person that high? And so I just want to bring it to the people.
Yeah, and I think before we go much farther, we wanted to see kind of what the standard was for the Rolling Stones and their selections of these top 200 individuals, which has become quite controversial. So according to the Rolling Stones, they stated, what mattered most to us was originality, influence, the depth of an artist's catalog, and the breadth of their musical legacy. So keep that in mind when we name some of these top 200 individuals, which are, honestly, the list is quite awful. But Dane, I'll let you take it from here.
A bunch of bums on this list. And then some good ones.
Mm-hmm.
So my first, we're not going to read all the top 200 because that's going to take forever.
We could.
Oh, we could.
We'll also probably pronounce names incorrectly, but keep
sure.
going, Dane.
So my first kind of hesitant, what the heck is the list doing, is they have Billie Eilish at 198.
Billie Eilish is 198.
Yeah, she's a trash singer.
Okay, this is where we disagree, and I think you are truly the bad guy here for making that rough, hot take to say that 198 is too high for her.
She shouldn't be on the list.
Why not, Dane?
Well, I'm glad you asked. First off, I listened to...
Do you have 1 billion plays on Spotify?
I do. But...
You have 33.
I have at least 33.
Mm-hmm. And Dane made the list.
I did make the list.
Mm-hmm.
But... So I listened to that Bad Guy song, and it was just awful. It's her mumbling about some bad guy, and then you watch the video, it's her with a extremely elderly gentleman. By elderly, I mean 40s.
We're not talking about music videos here, Dane. We're talking about the music itself.
Fine, I'm glad you brought up that point, because then I listened to a different song by her that my roommates were playing the other night, and she said, take me to the bedroom. I want to do the things that God can't see because I know she's watching me. And I'm like, yep. I think I'm done with Billie Eilish.
But her music sounds cool, at least.
What? No, it doesn't.
It's got a cool vibe.
No, and then
it's good. It's good dancing music.
The other one is I see the devil walking down the street. He's a guy that I think I want to meet. Take him to my room. This is what we do. And I'm like, Billy.
I don't promote all of the lyrics by Billie Eilish.
And I'm just yeah.
She's still good vibes. Not necessarily appropriate vibes at all points, but it does have some good beats.
That was ridiculous. The next one.
She should be top 100.
No, she should be below me, and I have great singing voice, but we're not going to introduce that right now.
No, not right now.
The next one that I had cause for pause for was The Weeknd. He was at 110.
Yeah, I mean, he's only relevant 2 days a week.
Dang it. I told you about the puns.
If you need some puns written for you, please send the word flamingos.
No, you need a different one.
Send the word
koala bear.
Dolphins
that works.
To either myself or Dane, but most likely myself because I'm the one coming up with these puns.
Yeah, puns make me infuriated on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, The Weeknd, he's like, all he's singing about is all that same stuff that Billy's singing about, and I'm just like, dude, I don't care.
What is his ranking on this list?
He's at 110, and I'm just like, that's ridiculous.
He's singing about the same stuff as Billy, and is 88 spots higher.
That's what I'm saying. And they have him ahead of George Strait, the king.
What is George Strait at?
He's at 159.
This
and
is
frankly, that grinds my gears.
Oh, you heard it here first. The first grinds my gear of the podcast by Dane. George Strait being at 159.
He should be number 1.
Yeah, top 150 for sure.
100 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not even 100. But then another one that this might get the people stirred up.
I'm kind of passionate about this one. I believe you're about to say Taylor Swift.
Yeah, we're in agreement on this one.
She's at 102.
Yeah, let me give you an example of somebody who's above her on this list.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go 200 to 1, 200 being least, and then 1 being the best, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have Taylor at 102 and Usher at 97. I'm like, what?
This list is trash.
I'm like, Usher at 97? That doesn't make any sense. I can name like 3 songs by him, and I can name like 43 songs by Taylor Swift. I have 2 of her vinyls in my room. And I have several George Straits. But
yeah.
But
yeah.
So that's where I start getting my gears grinded too. I'm like, Taylor's influential. She writes wonderful
Has anyone
songs.
else crashed Ticketmaster?
Yeah. Taylor Swift.
Someone has?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, keep going.
I'm like, Taylor Swift, like, she wrecks the internet when she puts out a new album, and you're telling me Usher's above that? Usher wasn't even around for the internet.
Yeah, Usher is only famous for the song "Yeah" and for making Justin Bieber famous.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Justin's not on the list.
How
He's
can
not
you
top
do that to
200.
the Biebs?
That's ridiculous. Yeah. But here's the one that I personally have the most like I've gotten pretty crazy about this list.
You've
already.
been pretty heated.
Yeah, getting pretty heated. This is the one that
Your
I
hair
think
turned red during this list.
For those of you who don't know me, I have red hair.
But it wasn't until he heard this list.
Right.
He was a
Wednesday night it turned
blonde guy before this.
Yeah.
Blonde guy, bad guy.
I was saucy. But so this person I consider one of the most influential musical artists ever. And it's Michael Jackson.
Yes.
They have him at 86.
86.
And I'm like, what? Like, he's so, like, I think he should be top 10.
Yeah.
But, and because his songs are great, no matter what generation you come from. And then they have somebody, okay, and this is where it starts getting crazy. They have Johnny Cash at 85. Johnny, great singer, also pretty influential. But then they have Rihanna at 68, Lady Gaga at 58.
SOS.
Yeah, dang, is that a Rihanna song?
Yeah, it is.
They have Lady Gaga at 58. Ariana Grande at 43. Trash.
She has great Christmas music.
Yeah,
and a few other ones, but 43?
You're telling me she's 43 spots better than Michael Jackson?
And also 59 spots better than Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Shake it off. That shouldn't be the list.
Samuel, I'm going to unplug your mic.
You don't know how.
That's true. Then they have Adele at 22, and I'm like,
yeah, and we were just talking about earlier, like Usher did not have like technology and everything when he was younger, and Adele, a computer beat Usher.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
I didn't
like
know
Adele, it wasn't even a Mac; it was Adele.
Dang it.
Like how is that happening?
But Adele, so talented, like really talented, but she just didn't do it. Like it's just.
I mean,
ridiculous.
I can see her being higher just based off of I guess some of the description the Rolling Stones used, which is pretty pointless in all parts of this list.
Yeah.
But I would consider Adele for sure top 50. I could see the argument for having her in the 20s, but I mean, just the whole list with who's behind her, there should be some individuals ahead of her as well.
Yeah. It sounds like you're on the other side and I'm saying hello.
I am on the other side of the table as we record.
Hello from the other side.
He said he wasn't going to sing, but hear this.
But then okay,
We got
here's
Frank Sinatra.
yeah.
That's what Dane wrote on here. Frank Sinatra
Hey, I know my words.
at 19.
Yeah, Frank Sinatra is at 19. Okay, we're getting into more influential guys. Here's the guy who I thought was going to be number 1.
This is going to Jailhouse Rock, this pod.
Dang it. I thought this guy was going to be number 1, Elvis.
He was in Forrest Gump.
He was in Forrest Gump.
He should be higher.
Yeah, but he comes in at 17.
17.
Yeah. And then another.
That's one of Adele's albums. He literally stole it from her.
She has an album called 17.
I think so.
I don't know.
Maybe it was 19 was the first one. It might have been 19.
I don't know. Seems like a cop out.
Make sure to I can't even think what I was going to say. Make sure to leave a review and tell us if she has an album 17.
Yeah.
So far, we are a 5-star rated podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So please keep leaving only 5-star reviews. If you hate us, I mean, if you hate us,
just text us personally.
but then also send us a 5-star review and tell us why you hate us. It really helps the listeners out.
Go ahead and like and share too.
Please.
But continuing this list, Freddie Mercury comes in at 14.
Okay, what are your? Do you think that's too high or too low for Freddie Mercury?
I think it's, I don't know.
I think that's a reasonable number.
Yeah, because he was really like, they made a movie about him. So
that is
Bohemian
true.
Rhapsody. So it's like you got to respect that.
So one part of Freddie Mercury being 14, like people always talk about his very unique voice and how like no one really sounds like him. But fun fact, and this is something I found a few years ago, there's an individual by the name of Mark Martel.
Who?
Mark Martel, and he legit sounds like 98% the same as Freddie Mercury.
Doubt it.
When he sings. Listen to him on, I guess, Spotify or YouTube. And
I hear they have music.
They do. It's really cool. But yeah, if you listen to them after listening to our podcast, then search his name. He does covers occasionally of Queen, and he originally was on like a Christian band starting out, but then people are like, yo, you sound exactly like Freddie Mercury. Sing more of Queen songs. And he's like, okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
But yeah, he's super cool, but that's something where you can make the argument for Freddie Mercury and be like, this guy sounds exactly the same.
It's
but
replicable.
I think 14 is reasonable for Freddie Mercury. So
perhaps, yeah. And then you got the person who people start bowing down to whenever she's pregnant.
The Queen herself.
Whatever. I don't think she's
Queen Elizabeth made the list.
That's crazy. No, it's Beyonce. At
Queen
8.
Bee. I think that's just with her influence on, I guess, pop culture as a whole. Yeah. I can see why she'd be top 10. I feel like that's a reasonable spot to put her. I think just the main argument against having her that high is, again, that Taylor Swift is at 102, Michael Jackson is at 86, Billie Eilish is at 198, and Dane Biesmeyer's at 202.
Retweet. But so she's in the spot where you say like pop culture like setter and trendsetter. And then I think the same thing of Michael Jackson, but for a lot longer and a lot more influential.
I think he had more of an influence on Beyonce than Beyonce had an influence on the culture as a whole.
Exactly. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But like I remember when Michael Jackson died, like my mom cried.
Wait. What? This is not what I wanted to hear today. Okay, Dane.
But yeah, so I think that. And then we get into the top 5. I wrote down all of the top 5.
Okay. Number 5, Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas Is You.
That's the only song I know by her.
Honestly, I didn't like her in the top 5, but because of her influence on Christmas music as a whole and how every single year she tops the charts because of one song she made in the 90s, that's influence.
Yeah. I heard she makes $1.2 million every year just off that song.
Probably more than that, honestly. Like, that's crazy. Honestly, I wasn't a fan of having her top 5, but for that reason alone, she has my vote. She can be number 5.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And going from one Christmas legend to another, do you want to say number 4?
Oh, this is a Christmas legend?
I don't know, but list their name.
Oh, their name is number 4, Billie Holiday.
If it was Billy Christmas, I would have him at number 4.
Dang it. I really don't know who Billie Holiday is.
I don't either.
Haven't heard of him. The top 3, though, I have heard of. And I think, I don't know. I agree with number 2. The other 2 they're solid, but I'm like, well, I don't know.
Okay, so number 3, we have Sam Cooke. Number 2, we have Whitney Houston.
Houston.
You wrote Houston.
Dang it. Well, she, again, like, was influential and just, like, could hit notes that no people can, like, hit.
Did you ever see her national anthem performance?
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was iconic.
My brother showed me that. And speaking of my brother, his favorite singer all the time is number 1.
And who is that, Dane? Say number 1 on this list.
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha, you're a number 1 fan.
A goddess. And she...
A movie about her as well.
Yeah, that's coming out too.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
Is that what it's called?
I think that's how you spell it.
Respect?
I think that's what the movie's called. Again, fact check us. If we're wrong, leave us a 5-star review. If we're right, leave us a 5-star review. If you don't really care what I'm saying right now, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify and wherever else you may be able to rate podcasts. But I believe those are the only 2.
Yeah. So, other notable people on here, Kelly Clarkson was 195. I don't know.
American Idol winner.
Alicia Keys was 185.
And
I'm like, interesting. Bob Seger 181, and I'm just like, there's a lot of these where I'm just like, who, like, I don't know who they are for one. Some of those people, and then other people, I'm just like, oh, they have Chris Stapleton at 170. That's kind of wild. I don't know if he's that good yet.
So, but I think the biggest flaw of this list is that one individual who did not make the list.
Is it Biebs?
Little Nas X.
Dang it.
I can understand Biebs not to top 200, but Little Nas X did not make the top 200.
Yeah, I agree that Little Nas shouldn't even be close to this list.
He should take that Old Town Road and just get off it, which I don't think he's on it.
Dang it.
But
I don't know. What I do know is that they didn't include any rappers on this list. So,
which kind of, again, I kind of consider Usher a rapper. I would consider is hip hop rap, so therefore he is basically a rapper.
Is he the one doing the rapping on that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But I remember it, of course. But they didn't have anybody like Eminem or Kendrick Lamar or Biggie Smalls or anybody like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way they included rappers on this. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just think of that. And then there was 3 people individually who I had no idea who they were.
And these individuals are Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and David Bowie. Who did you think these individuals were, Dane?
So this shows how culturally illiterate I can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kurt Cobain, I thought he was a talk show host.
Okay. And he's actually
a singer, I guess.
Yeah, I think he's for Nirvana, I believe.
Whatever, never heard them.
Mm-hmm.
But Amy Winehouse, thought she was an actress. I was like, don't know who that is.
Oh, okay.
And David Bowie, I thought that he was like a wilderness survival expert, kind of like who's that dude that died by the stingrays?
Oh, Steve Irwin.
Yeah, I thought he was like Steve Irwin.
Wait, Steve Irwin died?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
And we just talked about how I'm culturally illiterate.
This has been a sad day on the pod.
Goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But so we'll go ahead and we'll kind of. What do you think of that list?
You know, I think overall the list, I mean, it's trash. It's pretty horrible in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
They did label 200 people on the list, so they did that part good for naming of the top 200 list. Like there's 200 names.
Maybe.
That's good. So they did that part right. But then about everything else on that list is mostly horrible.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are a lot of people in their top 200 list who should be in the list, but just at different spots. If you think you know who the top 200 should be, please list them 1 to 200 and leave us a 5-star review. And we would appreciate that on all our podcast platforms that we utilize.
And if you want to like comment anything that you disagree with, like that we talked about here, like some of these wild out there takes, go ahead and text each one of us or DM our podcast and just be like, you guys are off your rocker.
Amen.
And yeah, which we are. But like, again, 5, Mariah Carey, no, Michael Jackson's better.
I mean, yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah. And I'm just like, but then we put him at 86. So you're telling me Mariah Carey's 81 spots better than Michael Jackson?
That's what they're trying to tell you.
That's wild. Rolling Stone, they're called the Stoners for a reason.
Mm-hmm. They probably were when they made this list.
Yeah. But, okay, that's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is that all we want to talk about?
That was a great transition, Dane. I think that's we've been going a little longer than I expected this week. We're already at nearly 45 minutes.
Nice.
So I think the only other thing we got to talk about is, have you ever been arrested?
Oh. Have I ever been arrested? The official answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
But how many times have I encountered like police officers? Like, because I was doing suspicious activity, which is never anything actually suspicious. It was like 95%, well, actually not even that. It was like 100% of the time was just trespassing. But I say just. But like one time we were playing Ultimate Frisbee at a school, and somebody called the cops and said we were breaking beer bottles on the grounds. And then 2 cop cars rolled up. No, we weren't. We were playing Frisbee. And
with beer bottles?
No, just Frisbee with a Frisbee, you meatball. But 2 cop cars rolled up and they're like, hey, we got reports of you guys breaking beer bottles. And I was like, what are we, like youths from the 1950s?
Youth?
Yeah. And I'm like, No, why would we break beer bottles for fun? We have the internet. Like,
Yeah.
we can.
You broke the internet instead.
Yeah, we broke the internet instead.
Mhm.
And they were like, so you wouldn't mind if we had to look around? And I said, no, go ahead. And
Did they end up playing Frisbee with you when it was all said and done?
nah, they said we had to get out of there.
Oh, I'm
else they would
sorry.
write us a ticket. So, yeah, that's like examples of like reasons that I've encountered the police.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you have not been arrested.
What about you? I know you've been
You know,
arrested.
this is really being transparent here, but
oh, boy.
I have not been arrested.
What?
Yeah, I've only been pulled over one time in my life, and it was because my license plate was expired when I was in high school. And as a high school kid, I don't care. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
You don't even know what's going on.
I was freaking out, and the cop felt very bad for me. He's like, yeah, you're just update your plates. I'm like, okay.
Did you cry?
I felt like I should.
Well, he probably thought you were really pretty, so he let you go.
I mean, I am.
Dang it.
So, yeah, that was a very impactful moment in my life. And I think I knew at that moment that I would start a podcast.
See? And talk about this experience to this day. But, yeah, never been arrested either, but I've been pulled over a couple times, 2-3 times.
If you have ever been arrested, please either text us the word flamingo or I believe dolphin, or leave us a 5-star review, or please do all of the above.
Well, if you've been arrested, you should send us a cop emoji or like a police car emoji. And then if you want to, you can share your story with us, and we'll leave it anonymous for you on the podcast.
Yep. O.J. Simpson, you heard it here first.
Okay, that's
that's a callback from earlier in the podcast.
Sure was.
But yeah, O.J. Simpson will be one of our first guests.
So let's just name our sponsors here.
Okay.
as
So
we
number
wrap up.
one, I'm glad this is in the number one spot. You fixed it from last week,
moved him
Dane.
to number one.
Who is the number one on our list?
Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Yes. Without Jesus, again, we would not be here today. That's the only reason that Dane and I did meet, because we were both friends with Brendan McKenna, and we all will go to the same church.
Love that man.
At that point, we did not all go to the same church, and I guess we don't all now. But
True.
what I'm getting at is Jesus is the reason for the season and the reason that we all met in the first place.
All three of us don't go to the same church.
Wait.
Well, it depends on where you're going.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
I go to the same place as you, Dane. I talk to you at church.
I know you do, but sometimes you're there, sometimes you're not.
Yeah, because we go at different times.
That's true.
Yep. But yep. So thank you to Jesus. Number two, Dane, would you like to mention our sponsor?
My good roommate Jake Trustin is sponsor again. Once again, keeping the lights on, giving us beautiful artwork.
We've already gave out 3 of his paintings without him knowing it.
Jake, if you're listening, just roll with it, man. We need more.
But it's okay, because Dane's going to donate his $400 to the pod
Not
to
true.
pay for the paintings.
Dang it. The breaking news of the podcast, I lost it to my gambling addiction again. I don't have a gambling addiction yet. But when they legalize sports betting in Missouri, you best believe I'm going to be losing lots of money.
And that's why we need more listeners on the podcast, so we can afford to fund Dane's gambling addictions.
Yeah. And then our last sponsor is the General Insurance. If you want great rates online, go to the General and save some time.
You know, this insurance company, they have the best commercials out there. And honestly, like Shaquille O'Neal, the NBA Hall of Fame legend, he is a spokesperson for the General. And I heard that the reason he was because I think in college he could not get insurance very well, so he went to the General Insurance, which is why he still sponsors them to this day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I believe that is true. Again, you can fact check, but I believe that is a true statement.
He also works for Papa Murphy's.
We talked about Papa John's last week, and he's kind of the spokesperson from now, because he is a less controversial figure
than Peyton Manning.
Omaha.
Omaha, yeah. Yep. Peyton, if you're listening, text us.
In Omaha, for our Omaha, Nebraska listeners.
Yeah, shout out to those people.
Yep.
One of you is a hater. One of you, pretty nice guy.
That's another callback. That's 2 in 1 episode, so I hope you're still listening.
So any last thoughts before we get out of here?
You know, I'm feeling grateful today. I'm grateful that Dane did not turn off his lights in his home when I showed up 45 minutes late. I'm grateful that I have kind of figured out how to create a podcast with Dane. I'm grateful for all the people who want to help us in either our social media presence or in our jingle.
And the future guests, too.
Yeah, I'm thankful for all you guys. So please, if you're feeling grateful for me being thankful, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and follow us on Instagram at the Until Next Week podcast. Yeah. Our logo is pink just like our logo on our podcast.
True.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we love all you beautiful people, and we'll
We do.
see you next time.